Good evening. I'm Matt. I'm outlaw number 140. I play as a back. I'm straight, and my pronouns are he and him. Tonight, I'll be interviewing Simon Law, who's been a quite long-standing member of Outlaws. Simon, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, Simon Law, outlaw number 12. That's the long-standing part. I play wherever needed, generally. And to be fair, do you know what? I don't actually have a preference on where I play within the team, to be honest. Pronouns are he, him, and if you want, oi.
I shall be calling you Oi then.
Yeah.
So Oi, what comes to mind when you think of LGBT spaces or groups, such as Boston or Q Space?
Well, that's two ends of the spectrum, isn't it? Boston or Q Space. I don't have a great view of some of these things. I mean, Boston, it's a club, it's open late. Chappers is always drunk in it, always getting me to do shots in it.
It's not a bad thing, or is it?
And almost everybody else as well, to be fair. Chappers is very much like that with shots. Q Space, to be fair, I don't know a lot about Q Space, to be honest. But, they're probably one of the few other LGBTQ groups that are actually within the town that I've actually heard of.
Right. When you think of traditional rugby club, what images come to mind?
Old men, rundown clubs, banter, which let's be fair, most of it isn't actually that funny, and borderlines misogynistic and homophobic. I've sat in a fair few straight rugby clubs and heard the things that are said in the changing rooms and sort of been like, okay, even for me, that makes me wince. And
yeah, that's difficult. That is difficult. How did you weren't best pleased about that, and why are you?
It's uncomfortable.
Were they aware of your sexual orientation?
Some of them were, yeah. Some of them were. But when you're that one person, or there's only a couple of you in there and you're a guest for that team, then you kind of really see how what happens and what goes on. But to be fair, there's no malice in it. It is for them banter, and it is, it is stereotypical stuff. But as a gay man, you do feel, or you can feel uncomfortable about it. Sometimes you can just join in with it, and it is like hard. But sometimes it goes a little bit far.
Right. So what did you think a gay / inclusive rugby club would be like?
Yeah, to be fair, I didn't know what to expect, to be honest. And part of me didn't want to go down because I didn't know how many people I'd already know, and whether there'd be people there that I actually didn't want to kind of associate from the Northampton gay scene, if that makes sense. It's a bit weird. I'm not, or I've never classed myself, I guess, as a stereotypical gay man. Right. And I've never kind of fitted in to that.
Right. So you don't really feel fully that, fully a part of that scene. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, that's it. My past life in the gay scene in Northampton will a large majority of it will have been spent working as a doorman on the gay clubs that were there. So I kind of had a funny relationship with it, because a lot of people will see me as that first, and then I used to get a lot of stuff about when you used to kick people out of gay clubs, the first thing you get is that you're homophobic, and then it's like, well, it's quite funny when you see the owner of the club turn around and go, but can't be homophobic as gay.
Right.
So
right.
there's that. I didn't really know what to expect, to be honest. I kind of thought it's in the arse end of nowhere, and it's a bit weird. And I'd only met the two of the founding members of it. But you know, it's one of those things that you don't really know what to expect. And I hadn't been through a normal straight rugby team before. I hadn't played rugby since I left school.
Right. So you came straight out of came out of school, didn't play, and then you joined Outlaws.
Yeah.
Many moons ago, being 12, and I'm 140. So I don't know. We can't get rid of you, can we?
No, sorry.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're here to stay. How has the Outlaws changed your view of rugby clubs / teams?
When I think of from when we first started, and you used to hear sometimes you could hear the other team talk, and it'd be like, do you know what, we don't want to lose to these bunch of gays, and that's the sort of thing. You don't hear that anymore. You kind of know that clubs are still at times loading second team or maybe even first team players into the team because they still don't want to lose. But I think, you know, from now you can see that it's accepted as generally a rugby club. And there isn't that kind of, you know, what's this gay team doing here? Why are we playing doing it?
So you feel a bit more acceptance generally locally as a club? Yeah,
and I think we've integrated. I think, you know, the move to Old Scouts really helped kind of integrate us more into the Northampton rugby scene rather than it kind of a little bit removed. Scouts have done a lot with us as well, supported us along the way. So I kind of think that helps to have quite obviously one of the established local clubs behind it as well. So yeah, you know, and we've always, I think luckily as well, we've always had a good relationship with Heathens, and Heathens are very social. You know, they kick our ass most of the time, but you know, they have a good crack and they don't really care. And we've always had a good relationship and a laugh with them. So I think that helps as well.
Have you had previous playing experience? You mentioned you played at school.
Yeah, not much at school.
No, not much at school.
No.
How did you? So what made you decide to come back to rugby then?
Do you know, I always wanted to try rugby. I always wanted to play rugby, but I never did it because I wasn't in a household that encouraged sport or anything like that. So you know, it just wasn't. You know, my old man's happy to watch it, get drunk whilst watching it, but playing it is a completely different kettle of fish. And so I was never encouraged to do anything. And then, you know, I'd spent time just working out in the gym and that sort of stuff, and found it fairly boring. And just kind of wanted something different. And I'd been a season ticket holder at Saints for about 4 or 5 years. And it was just like, it just kind of felt like it was pretty much a natural thing to try and do. And you know what, if I was crap at it, then I'd given it a go. But luckily I wasn't that bad. I mean, I'm not the benchmark. I'm not the benchmark for being rubbish, so it's fine.
Not to your face. Not to your face.
Cheek of it.
Thinking back, how did you feel before your first training session? I mean, we're talking a long time ago now.
Yeah, I don't know if I can.
Long time.
Yeah, my memory is not that good. But you know, you're always apprehensive, aren't you, and nervous about meeting new people and coming into a to doing to a new environment. Now I turned up to training to just watch the first one and just to scope it out and see what it was all about, actually. So I didn't just turn up and just train the first night. I went out there and watched it and saw, and I saw that there were various different levels of people there, and the coach at the time was really welcoming. The committee people were really welcoming as well, so kind of put it all to ease. So I think that was a good way of doing it, rather than just trying to turn up and
play
and play and train and kind of not really know the level or what was going to happen. So I think in that idea of going to the next session and knowing what it was about was kind of helpful to it.
So would you say for new members or potential new members, if they feel a bit uneasy about playing, maybe just turning up and having a see would be a good option?
Yeah, turn up on a Tuesday or a Sunday, and kind of see what fits for you. You might not want to go into maybe a heavier Tuesday training session, and maybe you're just thinking that touch is your thing or whatever, and you just want to scope out the Sunday afternoon and more for a social point of view. So I think that's a really good thing, just coming down and having a look and getting a feel for the place. I think you can get a feel for what the ethos of the club is from the outside and from looking at it, and then you kind of make that decision as to whether that's the right fit for you.
What advice would you give to a new member or someone out there watching now who is thinking, well, I think we just covered that, but do you want to crack on with some more? Anything else?
You know what? Watch it, have a look at it, and even if you don't think you're going to be good at it, give it a go, because essentially rugby isn't the most difficult sport in the world.
You can get away with a lot of things, can't you?
Yeah, it's catch, run, tackle. Now, if you don't want to do the tackling side, then you get a touch, and it's catch and run and pass. It's not that difficult, and everybody can be taught how to pass and simple moves and stuff like that. It's not as complicated as what it seems to be. So I think it's to get over kind of all the things that you might need to know, and trust that the coaches and the club will teach you what you need to know. And I think that's the good thing about the way that the Outlaws do it and the way that we train all as one, in that you're not separated. You don't have a first team and a second team. You don't have tryouts. You don't have any of that sort of thing. You just come in, and it doesn't really matter about your level. We can sort you out. So I think for a new person, you just have to take the plunge and do it.
No, I agree with you. I actually agree with you there. It's a wonderful place to learn and to make mistakes. The pressure, there is no pressure for you to be amazing out the box. You can be bad, but if you turn up week in, week out and you show commitment, that's literally more than you can ask for. Outlaws and people, it's really well received by everybody.
You will get
in
better.
my short time.
Just by turning up, you will get better. You might drop it 5 times one night, but at some point, I always say this to people when I coach, especially new people. At some point, it will just click. It took me months for things just to click, and at some point, you will stop thinking about catching the ball and passing it, and you'll just do it, and then you'll start thinking about something else, and you'll add it in, and you'll add it in. So for me, it's don't overthink things. Don't think, oh, this is a new skill and I've got to do this. It's like concentrate on that one thing, repeat it. And then at some point, something in your brain somewhere will just go, I can do it.
Yeah. And as you said, you touched on it earlier, it's actually not a very complicated game, but it does look really messy if you don't really know what's going on. It looks really shambolic. It doesn't really seem like there's any sort of structure, but actually there is quite a lot of structure. And
I think if you don't know the game, and I guess for me, a lot of LGBTQ plus people probably don't have the interest in the wider game, that they don't know you know, they don't watch rugby as much and they're not sort of into rugby, then actually when you come and look at it, it's like, well, that's a great big grabble of men on the floor, and then there's all these moves, and there's a line out and there's a scrum and that sort of thing. But actually when you break it down, there's only 4 or 5 or 6 things, and whilst it looks unstructured, it's more structured than what it looks like. And you know, if you're like me, then just do what you can do, just not to give a penalty away. And if you give a penalty, then you know, here's what it is. But
I mean, another thing that there's quite interesting is because rugby's got quite defined positions. You can actually not be so great at something and still definitely play a part in the game in a really positive way. So if let's say you're not particularly good at catching the ball, so we're not going to stick you at something like full back. We'll probably put you in the pack where you probably have less ball handling. So it was something for everybody.
Yeah, it is. You just need to find your niche in it, and maybe you'll start somewhere and you'll move around. And a lot of the positions are interplayable as well. You know, like centres and flankers are not that different, other than centres can generally pass a little bit better. Well, depending on our flankers generally, and there's not much difference between the two of them at all, actually, to be fair. No, but you know, they generally tackle and they generally can pass, and you generally can put centres and flankers in between each other's and things like that. And you know, wingers don't need to be quick. It helps, but you don't actually need to be quick, because if you can read the game and spot the space, and actually if you can tackle, I'd rather have 2 wingers that can tackle than 2 wingers that were, you know, that could do 15-second 100 meters but couldn't tackle. So you can always find a space for people.
Even if it's just bringing the water on. Even if it's just that.
Or the tape boy, yeah.
If you could describe the Outlaws in 3 words, what would it be?
Mad, ridiculous, fun.
Good. Good. That concludes all the questions for this evening. Thank you very much for watching, and I will be passing it on.
Thank you for watching the interview with an outlaw. If you like what you saw, please click like. And if this is the first time you're here, why not hit subscribe for more from our channel? We release 5 every Friday, so let's see who will pass it on next.